You walk different now. Not faster, just heavier, like you buried the old you and didn't leave a grave marker. They don't look you in the eye anymore, do they? Not because they're scared. Not yet. But something in their bones twitches, like animals sensing a quake before it hits. You walk in and the room forgets how to breathe. Not because you say anything, but because silence has finally grown fangs. You stopped begging to be understood. And that, my friend, is when people started listening with fear. There was a version of you who bent, bowed, broke just to be liked. Pathetic. That version's dead now, buried without flowers, without tears. You didn't kill it out of hate. You buried it out of mercy. What walks now is different, heavier, louder in silence, the kind of quiet that presses against the skin like a loaded gun in the dark, the kind of calm that makes people shift in their seats and smile too wide. Aura? No. You're not glowing. You're leaking. Rage, discipline, hunger. Every suppressed scream now whispers from your pores. You became a warning label dressed in skin. Your presence is no longer a welcome, it's a psychological event. People don't remember what you said. They remember how their heart rate changed the moment you entered. That's impact. That's evolution. They can't explain why they avoid you, but they do. They laugh a little too loud when you're near. They shrink when you say nothing. They cross the street, not out of hate, but out of instinct, because what you carry now isn't safe. Not to the weak, not to the fake. You became a walking contradiction, still and storm, calm and carnage. And that messes with people who only understand masks. You used to explain yourself. Now, you let your silence sharpen its teeth. You used to apologize for your intensity. Now, you lean into it. You don't walk for acceptance anymore. You walk like the earth owes you distance, and it gives it. Even the air feels heavier when you're near. That's not charisma, that's consequence, and they feel it in their marrow, even if their mouth hasn't caught up yet. So no, they don't fear you yet, but their instincts do. Their shoulders tense, their smiles falter, because something in them knows the old you died, and this one didn't come back to be liked. This one came back to conquer, quietly, permanently, with a smirk that says, "Try me." They didn't abandon you. They released themselves from what they couldn't handle. You begged for loyalty, and life gave you the truth. Brutal, unfiltered, surgical. They didn't walk away because you were broken. They ran because you were building. They saw the storm coming in your eyes and mistook it for weakness. Fools. Rejection wasn't a punishment. It was a scalpel. It cut out the rot, sliced away every hand that held you down under the disguise of love. You didn't lose anything. You were amputated, cleanly. You didn't sit in isolation. You burned in it, alone but not idle. While they laughed and posted and played pretend, you were dissolving, layer by layer, identity, ego, illusion, all set on fire. You stared into the abyss and didn't blink. You screamed until your throat bled. Silence. And when it was done, what rose wasn't healed, it was hardened. reforged in solitude's furnace. Silence didn't break you, it weaponized you. They thought you'd crumble without their approval. Cute. You were never meant to be in their circle. You were meant to outgrow it. Isolation showed you who you are without applause, without validation. And that version of you, that's the real one. Not the people pleaser, not the performer. The savage. The ghost. The relentless force who doesn't chase, just chooses. And once you tasted that solitude, you realized peace is louder than people. Your breakdown wasn't random, it was reprogramming. Every tear, every panic, every night clawing at your chest, it was the system rebooting. You weren't dying, you were downloading new instincts, the kind that don't flinch, the kind that see betrayal as clarity. You didn't go numb, you went neutral. No love, no hate, just observation, just data, just calm calculation before the kill. You didn't lose people, you lost leashes. And now, no one gets to pull you back. No one gets to dictate your pace. You don't wait at the door like a dog anymore. You are the door, and they don't get through unless they bleed truth. That's what isolation taught you. Not just who you are, but who they never were. And the second you saw that, you stopped calling it loneliness. You started calling it freedom. You don't threaten people. Your presence reminds them of promises they broke to themselves. You don't raise your voice. You don't puff your chest. You just stand there, still, unbothered, and somehow it makes them twitch. Why? Because calm in a chaotic world is unnatural, and anything unnatural unnerves them. They see your silence and mistake it for softness until they realize, too late, that silence is what real predators wear. Not to intimidate, but to wait. And your stillness, it's a trap laced with patience. You're not dangerous because you act out. You're dangerous because you don't have to. You carry yourself like a man who's already been through war and doesn't need to prove it. That's what terrifies them. Not your fists, but your self-control. That twitch behind your smile. That sharpness in your eyes that says, I've been broken before, and I liked it. You're not the victim anymore. You're the aftermath. People feel you before they hear you. You walk into a room and frequencies change. Not because you said anything, but because you don't react. You watch, and watching is power. Because in a world full of reactors, the one who remains unmoved owns the tempo. They yell, you blink, they insult, you smirk, and that makes them crumble. You force people to face themselves. That's power, cold, clinical, merciless. They don't flinch at what you say, they flinch at what you don't. You carry 1,000 unspoken warnings in your posture, not threats, reminders of the standards you now demand, of the lines they know better than to cross. You radiate a type of energy that says, I won't start the war, but I'll be the last one standing. And that alone, that shakes weak souls to their bones. You became allergic to disrespect, but not in a loud way, in a lethal way. You no longer argue, you exit. You no longer explain, you enforce. That's what your aura says now. It's not asking for attention. It's daring someone to try you. It's whispering, please, make the mistake. And those who've seen your storm once, they never test the weather again. You're not violent. You're volcanic. Dormant doesn't mean dead. You don't explode for show. You erupt for closure. And your calm is the countdown. They say walking red flag like it's an insult. No, it's a system alert. You're a firewall in human form. You used to shrink for their comfort. You used to edit yourself down to a version they could digest. But now you walk in full resolution. No filter, no apologies. And suddenly, you're too much, too honest, too blunt, too intense, but what they really mean is too immune. Immune to manipulation, immune to fake love. You're no longer soft enough to be bent, no longer hollow enough to be filled by their validation. That's what scares them. They call you a red flag, but that's projection. You're not the problem. They are. You're the mirror that reflects their unhealed wounds, their half-grown self-worth. You show them what self-respect looks like with a vengeance. They can't manipulate you, so they call you cold. They can't control you, so they call you dangerous. You didn't change to become a villain. You changed because you were done being the victim. You're not emotionally unavailable. You're selectively accessible. Not everyone gets a key anymore. Love is no longer given, it's earned. You've been stretched thin, stabbed deep, and stitched your own wounds. Now, you carry scars like medals, and boundaries like electric fences. People used to walk in and leave footprints on your soul. Now they walk near you and cross the street because they feel it, that buzz, that voltage, that edge that says, try me, and you'll regret it. Let them label you. Labels are shields. If toxic means you won't be lied to, used, or gaslit, then own it. If red flag means you call out patterns, speak your truth, and leave when it stops serving you, then fly that flag proud. Because in this world of masks and manipulation, the one who demands truth gets vilified. That's fine. Better to be feared for your fire than loved for your ashes. The myth of too much was invented by people who give too little. You were never too loud. They were just used to whispers. You were never too intense. They were addicted to surface-level affection. Let them drown in the shallow. You're swimming in your depths now. And those depths, they're not just emotional. They're weaponized. Anyone not ready to breathe at your level will choke. So, no. You're not a red flag. You're the warning label carved into steel, the kind they read and still ignore until they bleed. Magnetism isn't learned. It's unlocked when desperation dies. You stopped chasing the moment you realized what you were running after couldn't even handle you. They mistook your effort for weakness, your attention for approval seeking. But now, you don't reach, you reside. You sit in your worth like a king on a throne carved from every rejection that used to break you. No more thirst, no more proving, just presence, heavy, magnetic, unignorable. You became the storm they swore they'd outrun, but now they orbit. You stopped trying to be chosen, and suddenly everyone's watching. That's the twist. The moment you stop craving, the game flips. You're no longer the one knocking on locked doors. You are the damn door. And they don't know whether to knock, bow, or back away slowly. That's what real pull feels like. Silent, inevitable, deadly. You don't beg, you don't chase, you just exist in a way that forces people to confront what they lack. You became the blueprint they denied, then desired. Your silence speaks louder than their screams now. You say nothing, and they lean in closer. You disappear, and they search harder. Because you don't seek anymore, you attract, not out of need, but from nothing left to lose. There's a hunger in people, for connection, for attention, for energy. And you became the rarest currency, unavailable, untouchable. You learned to withhold not out of cruelty, but because your peace costs more than your past. That's the secret. When you no longer need them, they need you. And when you stop feeding their egos, they come crawling, starving for your silence. Let them wonder why you don't reach out. Let them feel the weight of being ignored by someone who used to give everything. That's not revenge. It's realignment. You're not playing hard to get. You are hard to get. Because access to your energy isn't earned through charm anymore. It's earned through change. And most just aren't built for your new altitude. You became gravity wrapped in skin. You don't scream for love. You radiate it inward. And that glow, that pull, it's fatal to anything fake. You no longer orbit anyone. They spin around you, dazed, lost, addicted. Because once they taste what self-worth seasoned in solitude feels like, every breadcrumb they once offered tastes like dust. They don't fear what they see, they fear what they can't figure out. You used to explain yourself, defend your fire, justify your ambition. But not anymore. Now, you smile, a quiet, tilted grin that says, I know something you don't, and I'm not telling. That's what unnerves them, not the noise, but the absence of it. You became a riddle wrapped in armor. They can't read you, so they assume danger. And guess what? That assumption? Your silence, it's not emptiness, it's strategy. You learn that people don't attack what they don't understand. They flinch from mystery faster than violence. You don't roar, you whisper with your eyes. You don't warn, you watch. And in that gap, that void of predictability, they unravel. Because while they scream for attention, you sit in shadows, collecting leverage. The Joker never moves first. He smiles while the room burns. Because chaos isn't in what you say, it's in what you withhold. That's your power now. You don't brag about plans, you become the plan. You don't show receipts, you are the prophet. You move in such silence, they mistake your stillness for weakness, until they feel the earthquake under their feet. Ambiguity? It's not confusion, it's control. You say less and people spill more. They fill the silence with their fears, their doubts, their desperation, and you listen, watch, smile. Not because you're playing games, but because you built the board. You stopped showing your cards because you realized you are the deck. Every glance, every pause, every exit, intentional. Let them wonder, let them spiral, let them create 1,000 stories about who you are and what you're planning. The truth? You're planning nothing. You're just being. And even that is too much for most to process. Because when someone owns their stillness, their silence, their power, they don't become predictable, they become legend. So go ahead, smile. That half smirk is your blade. Let it cut through the noise. Let it haunt the ones who thought they had you figured out. They don't. They never did. And now they never will. You didn't heal. You evolved. There's a difference. You didn't run from the pain. You drank it. Let it burn your throat, twist your gut, and sear your soul. And when it tried to kill you, you smiled back. Because some people get therapy. You got revenge through reinvention. You didn't patch your wounds with pity. You stitched them shut with grit, with rage, with that quiet promise you whispered in the dark. Never again. They saw a breakdown. You were building something. You were bleeding, yes, but also forging. Every heartbreak became a rep. Every betrayal a set. Every loss a drill in your own private hell where you sculpted a version of yourself no one saw coming. You didn't bounce back. You built forward. Not softer, not sweeter, but sharper, leaner, deadlier, with eyes that now read everything. Pain taught you to breathe through fire, to laugh with cracked ribs, to walk while bleeding. And now your threshold is unreadable. You're calm in storms because you trained in war. You've hurt longer than they've even tried. That's why you're faster, colder, hungrier. You weren't handed this power. You earned it in agony. They thought your silence was surrender. No, it was download time. People don't understand why you're so focused, so detached. It's because pain taught you something comfort never could. Urgency. You don't wait for peace. You create movement. You don't rely on support. You are the structure. While they crumble under criticism, you thrive in it. While they flinch from failure, you swing with it. Because your scars aren't shame. They're strategy. Every step you take now echoes with ghosts you buried. Every choice is calculated by a brain that's been rewired through trauma. You're not emotional. You're engineered. And when they ask why you're always 10 steps ahead, tell them this. I stopped reacting. I started responding. Because pain wasn't just your past. It became your programming, and now you're unstoppable. They don't miss your presence. They fear your absence. You used to beg them to understand, to listen, to see you. Now, you don't say a word. You vanish, not out of weakness, but calculation, because explaining is for the desperate. And you're no longer desperate. You're dangerous. You realize the moment you stop talking, they start watching. The silence becomes a scream they can't unhear. Disappearing isn't running, it's rewiring. It's exiting the noise to sharpen the blade. No good storm announces itself. It just arrives. And you stopped giving warnings. You stopped performing. You leave quietly and return unrecognizable. Because reinvention doesn't need an audience. It needs rage, solitude, vision. And you had all three. The beauty of disappearing is the confusion it leaves behind. People panic when they can't place you. When you vanish, mid-drama, mid-argument, mid-expectation, you rob them of their control. You become myth, a story retold in whispers. Where'd they go? What are they planning? Are they watching? That paranoia? That's your shadow walking ahead of you, doing the work without you lifting a finger. They expected a monologue. You gave them a blank screen. No final words, no explanations, just distance. And then results. Results so loud, they echo through the same mouths that once doubted you. You didn't prove them wrong by arguing. You proved them irrelevant by building in silence. You showed up with receipts, while they were still waiting on reason. And now, you either disappear or you dominate. No in between, no compromise. You're done being understood. You're busy becoming legendary. Let them talk, let them guess, let them spin stories to soothe their egos. Meanwhile, you rise, in silence, in shadows, with a smile that says, you'll see me again, but not how you remember me. Calm isn't comfort, it's control. They think you've softened, mistake your silence for serenity, your stillness for surrender. But what they don't see, what they can't see, is the storm you've chained under your rib cage. You didn't kill your chaos, you trained it. You don't seek peace to rest, you seek it to rule. You want the throne inside the fire, not escape it. You're not numb, you're strategic. You feel everything, deeply. But you choose what shows. You control the flicker in your eye, the shift in your breath. You're calm like a blade sheathed, not because it's dull, but because it's ready, always ready. You've learned that real power doesn't scream, it whispers while everyone leans in too close. They don't understand why calm people scare them more. It's because wild storms are predictable. They rage, they pass. But calm waters, that's where things disappear. That's where the apex predator swims in silence, waiting. You became that. You are that. And now people feel the threat in your composure. They flinch at your stillness, not your strikes. You used to react, now you read. You used to explode, now you calculate. That's power. Not emotionless, but emotionally unshakable. You don't chase peace because you're tired. You crave it because it's the ultimate arena for dominance. You've learned that when the heart races, the mind loses. But if you keep your pulse steady, you own the outcome. So no, you don't want peace like they do. You don't want escape. You want to sit in the eye of the storm and smile, knowing you are the one holding back the thunder. They'll never know how close they are to the edge with you. And that's the point. Power isn't always loud. Sometimes it breathes slow, stares straight through you, and never blinks.